Hey, it's Jim. It's Wednesday, August, sorry, 30th, September. August 30th, 2023. And time for my daily update. I uh I went to Old Man Band last night. And this is what I call the group of guys that I kind of jam with. We sit down and play guitars, and I do most of the singing. And they're they're uh they're good friends, honestly. Uh, and they've seen me go through all of this, and I can tell that they're impacted by it. But last night was the first time in 2 months I'd been able to play my guitar. It still hurt, but my pain has changed. It went from, I was having a lot of arm pain and shoulder pain to where I still have pain in my arm and shoulder, but I don't know if it's the baths and maybe they were a bad idea and kind of spread everything everywhere or not. But I now kind of hurt all over, and I hurt in that arm also and in the shoulder, and it definitely hurt some, but it was no longer super sharp pains. When I was playing, it was more like I mean, there would be some intense stabbing pains, but they weren't as sharp. And so I was able to get my arm up and over my guitar. It was a good night. Spent a couple hours just jamming, and it meant a lot. So that's good. Uh, it's kind of thinking about one of the things that I haven't explained is so what I'm going through right now is so the candidiasis has already attacked all of my system. Okay, it's just that my body has kind of isolated it in different ways through these different phases, and it keeps it from uh, basically killing me, I guess would be the best way to put it. And so one of the part of what's going on is it has completely disabled the immune system response and the inflammatory responses to it. Uh, and so you get this pain and you don't have inflammation, and that's part of it. And the other part to kind of realize is that what it's done is it's encapsulated this candidiasis in the cells that are apoptotic. And so what happens is eventually those are basically kind of walled off, but eventually they come into contact with either, and I'm not sure exactly the mechanism here, all right, but basically they come into contact with either sugars, or the pH changes such that they become more active. But I think it's somehow that sugars get to them, and so that's why primarily I eat protein. I try to avoid. I don't eat any simple carbs really. I try to stay away from any simple carbs. Uh, I don't think my system really handles complex carbs that well, so I don't think they're that much of an issue. But I do eat some complex carbs, just because it's basically hard to avoid them in normal everyday setting. I don't eat pasta anymore. I've given that up, and I skip the bread. Uh, but you know, uh, these are in the end, these guys that were in the study, all they ate was protein. It showed like stacks of beef that they ate, and so there's a couple layers going on here, but one is so where your hormones are produced. A lot of this stuff comes from cholesterol, and so if you look at kind of like what is turned into hormones, it's these complex things like cholesterol that end up getting turned into it. And so they were just eating protein with no carbs at all. Now, there's some other stuff there, like in the very end. And so, I doubt that I'll have this type of a reaction, or mine won't go this exact path, because they had people there advising them, caring for them, and telling them what to do, when, and everything. And I don't have any of that because some stupid asshole redacted it. But anyway, there were, at the end, these people that they couldn't move anymore, and they would just be eating ice cream. And it said that they were basically rushing towards their death. And it talked about how the ice cream was basically just loading up their body with the sugars and the calcium, and those are being pressed into the flesh of their body. But in doing so, it would raise the osmolality of their system, such that it could continue pushing harder on the pituitary, because the pituitary is literally what's driving everything, and it needs that osmolality to keep going. And so as you get into this hypocele failure, which is when your pituitary fails, the driving force of the osmolality was what they were using to kind of stay alive until the very last moment that they could. For someone like me, it said that in a modern day, that person's eventually their intestines will be impacted, such that and stomach, such that food is no longer flowing. And so at that point, they'll either go to the ER and they'll go, well, your bowels have died and we can't figure out why, or they'll just keep eating and compacting and washing down food and compacting until it literally rots through and it rots into their aorta, and then they just die like that. So, none of these are great options. I don't know how I'll go. I know I will go, and I know it will be, within weeks to months. At this point, I think I've been through all of the kind of revisitations of all the transitions over the last 19 months, and so at this point it's just what's next, and I'm just trying to deal with it. If anybody felt like I feel right now, they would be in the ER if they just suddenly started feeling like that. I mean, because I have burning on my skin. I have, like, when I set my arm down on my chair right here, I feel a couple things. So it feels like it's bruised. It feels like the skin is all irritated, and you're putting it on something that irritates it more. And in this case, I have long sleeves, so just that fabric irritates the skin. In fact, it showed the guys in there were pictures, and one of the captions of the pictures that I remember now is talked about how even a silk shirt would irritate the skin, and I definitely can see how that's happened. I mean, just wearing what I'm wearing right now, and this shirt I have on here underneath this is a nice smooth undershirt, but even that it irritates my skin. But I just deal with it, and I mean, there's not a whole lot else I don't. Nobody's lining up to fix my problems, so I just deal with it. Let's see. I wanted to talk a little bit about that, and one of the things I want to talk about too was pH, and so and this is something that never gets tested. And I did find one time when they did a blood gas on me, and in one of my old results, and that is somewhere out there linked on one of my things, and it was above normal. So my pH when they took it was above normal. Now that could be, they could attribute that to hyperventilating. I don't know, and I don't know the circumstances of that specific day, like what I was going through that day, to know why they bothered to take I'm sure I was nauseated, but I don't know why they bothered to take my pH. And I don't know if nausea would generally be associated with an acidic pH, or, I don't know. But anyway, on that day, it was above the normal range. And so anyway, this condition, it puts your body through pH changes during these transitions, and you go from like a acidic state to a basic state, and And so doing these changes, okay, so being acidic is not great. Being basic in and of itself is not great. You want to be in that normal range, but going from one to the other extreme actually causes problems. If you can imagine, well, if you did that with something, in real life, and you took it and you put it in something acidic and you put it in something basic, pretty soon it's just going to turn into mush. Okay, because it's things aren't built to take this change from acidic to basic, and that's what happens to most specifically your heart in this case, is that and it talked about how actually, like, one of the times when it goes into basic, it causes it to harden. Okay, and that helps at that point, but later it goes back to acidic, and so now then that double transition now causes it to soften, and then when it goes back to basic again, it just kind of makes it all fall apart. And so that was one of the ways that the person might die, is that literally that heart valve just stopped working, and blood wouldn't flow anymore, and then they would die. So I don't know what's going to go on. And I don't know, what the final report is going to be. I'm just trying to get one day at a time, and live as normal a life as possible, and be in the moment, and bring attention to the issue. And these videos, if you're watching them now, these are after the fact, and I have made them because honestly, I find it healing mentally to know that I'm leaving a record. I have made numerous emails that are addressed out in the future to friends, colleagues, family, my son, just expressing thanks for who they are, and for what they meant. And in the case of my son, giving him loads of advice that he probably I don't know how he'll take it. How kids are. But hopefully he'll know that that's me trying to be the father that I would have been if I was there to see him need that advice. And so I talk about everything, with him especially. And I have tried to, I have got, I immediately got my affairs in order. So literally January 17th of last year, and I went through the final transition. I'm like, okay, that was obviously something. And all this stuff has started. And you can see, if you look at my website, it's dated January 22nd. So, I was documenting, and then when I finally, got something documented, I labeled it January 22nd. So within a week, I had documented a lot of stuff. Now I've revised that many times, in the version that's out there is kind of a more condensed one. You have to kind of drill through to get to the longer one that's very meandering and has a lot of really personal stuff in it that you probably don't want to read. But it's my attempt to get it documented for science. And I find that leaving behind a record, whether it's ignored or what, is healing for me. Leaving behind these messages is healing for me. I hope that they read them. I hope that they allow them to be delivered on the schedule that I have them send. And I hope that they understand that while it may be seem like a lot, like, oh my gosh, here's yet another one, that I've had, what do you got? So it's been 9 months, so that's 270 days, or 8, no, it's been 7 months plus 12 months, so 7 months, you're at 210, 365. So 575 days in which to know that I have a condition that nobody else recognizes, and that, the end is coming, and I'm standing in front of the train and nobody else sees it coming except for me, and I can point at it all I want and nobody sees it. And it's very frustrating, and that I find it healing and relieving of some of that frustration, to be able to communicate, kind of, uh, you know, after I'm gone. So that's what all this is for. And, I, God, I'm so fascinated by the world. And, I'm reading this Lynn Alden book and it's so good. And, I'm fascinated by just everything. And I really am sad that I won't get to see more of it. I'm sad that I feel like an old man, that I can't, walk with any great amount of speed, that, walking for 15 minutes causes my legs to be sore, that I hurt, I'm sad. And I take an antidepressant, and I take something to help me sleep, and I try to live my life and in a meaningful way. And I feel more limited in that every day. And I don't know what else to do besides, leave messages and communicate science, and make sure that people understand that there's something out there, I guess, that nobody discusses, that it's novel science that might help the world, that it's been redacted on purpose, and therefore nobody knows about it. And I don't know. I'm very grateful. I've had over 10,000 days of extra life because I did what I did. I'm very certain that I saved my own life by giving myself this. And I've dealt with it up till now, so I'll just obviously keep dealing with it. It's not like I have any other choice. But it hasn't been easy, and I don't really feel like it's fair, but life is not fair, the world is not fair. The systems of life are not built to be fair. So you have to make of it what you can. You have to take charge. You have to, seize the moment and be the change, or have the effects that you want to. So this is me having an effect, kind of giving science the middle finger for screwing me over. I have your redacted disease, and I am telling the world about it. Hopefully somebody, makes it into a big deal. Maybe some scientists will actually look into it. I don't know. I don't know if any of my doctors will ever believe me. I don't know, how things are going to go, but I am making every effort I can, and my family will know that, and I hope that they will respect that. Later.